welcome back to my channel. This has been a wild week of frustration and only one breakdown to get this cosplay done by February. So I'm just gonna launch right on into it. So let's start with the most frustrating part of the entire costume, the wings. So I have been following a Fancy Fairy Wings tutorial for making these wings out of cellophane, iron-on vinyl, and poster board, which sounds neat to use poster board and all these lightweight iridescent things to create these wings. I'm able to cut the design out with my Cricut, and I found I couldn't follow her tutorial exactly. She said to use like a 12 gauge or a 16 gauge or 12 gauge aluminum jewelry wire. I followed the link on her video and purchased that exact wire. That wire cannot hold its own weight. When you extend it out the length of a wing and you just like jiggle it a little bit, it just falls down. I think I explained this in my last video. But anyway, so I got a thicker wire and I've been doing this tutorial and I cannot get these wings to what I think is competition worthy. So one of the biggest problems is bubbles. Just around the poster board, like around some of the stars, it doesn't seal all the way because there's thickness in that poster board between the two vinyls. And one of the other problems I'm having is when you follow her tutorial, there's two ways that she does it. There's two ways that she does it, but the main way when you're not painting with alcohol ink is you lay down the clear iron-on vinyl and you put your poster board on, you put your wire on, and then you cover that with cellophane, smush it all down, and then heat it up and try your best to flatten it. But the thickness of the wire, which I know I'm using thicker wire than what she recommended, though in her tutorial she used a thick wire anyway, and the thickness of the poster board and everything, you still wind up with imperfect areas, and then where the cellophane goes across the poster board, it doesn't stick to the poster board, obviously, because it doesn't have any adhesive to it. So then you wind up with a little bit of wrinkling across the veins. And I don't like that at all. I look at it, I'm like, it might be great for a photo shoot or just to wear to a convention, but is it good enough for a competition? And this is my first time that I'm going to be competing at a master level. So I'm feeling a lot of pressure on myself to execute everything as near to perfection as I can, which I know probably isn't necessarily fair to myself, but I'm really feeling that pressure. And so I have tried over and over and over again to make these wings work. I have 3 wings done and I have the 4th one, and I was working on the 4th one. And I followed her alcohol ink tutorial where instead of putting the cellophane on top, like instead of doing vinyl, veins, cellophane, you do vinyl and cellophane, and then you paint it, but I'm not painting mine, and then you put the veins and then another piece of clear vinyl on top. So I've been trying to make that work because I can lay that cellophane out perfectly, no bubbles, whenever I am putting it directly on top of that iron-on vinyl without the veins in between it. So I was trying to make that work, but it just doesn't. I got pretty close, I think, but still around that wire bubbled and wrinkled, and then of course you still have an area that's not sticky because of the cellophane, and it's driving me up the wall. So I thought, well, I could just maybe cover that upper wire with Warbler and just make it like a solid white vein. So I'll hide all of the wrinkling around the wires, but that doesn't solve my problem with the wrinkling around the back of the veins. So I was like, oh, let me try to cut the veins out of iron-on foil, like a gold foil, put that on. I like the idea of gold foil anyway, and I was like, let's put that on and see if that helps. And it helped, but it still just is not good enough. Not in my opinion. So I got really, really frustrated this week and I stopped work altogether. I had to just take a break. I had to walk away and just stop thinking about it, which I can't stop thinking about it at all, unfortunately. I tried really hard, but for reasons I can't, my mind doesn't let go easily. So I did take a couple of days just away from the wings, and I just worked on adding detail to the sleeves. So we at least have the sleeves like 99% done now. They have like little gold leaves that I 3D printed and molded the same way at the top, and then beading. I haven't put I don't know what to call it, the little strips of fabric that hang off of the puff on yet, because I don't know exactly how I want to do them. I have cut out some lace spirals to match the skirt, because in the artwork it looks like those are made out of the same design as the skirt, but I don't know if I like that yet. I was going to try crystal organza or chiffon, but I do not want to hem those spirals. Like, it would just almost be impossible, and I don't want to put glue on them because that wasn't my favorite thing to do, and since they're white I can't laser cut them out, so I'm trying to choose fabric that doesn't fray. So I have that lace, and that's probably going to be my backup, but I have one other idea I think I'm going to try with chiffon, and that is to essentially mimic the butt bow of my Super Sailor Moon costume. That is like an uneven triangle that you overfold a couple of times and gives you that zigzag. I might do that with chiffon a couple of times and let those hang off. I don't know yet. I'm still working my way through how I want to solve for that. But because of my frustration this week, when I hit a roadblock where I needed to think through something, I sort of just stopped. So I did not think through much on those sleeves either, because again, I needed a break from frustration. So anyway, as I was hand sewing, because that doesn't require any thought on my part, I was also thinking about my wings because I can't walk away, and I was trying to come up with how I want to do this. So I have two ideas I'm going to try, and I had to wait until I got more heat transfer vinyl to arrive before I could, I had to wait until my order of heat transfer vinyl came. I finally just ordered the like $75 roll of 50 yards, whatever it is, because I was going through this stuff like crazy. So that arrived yesterday, so I'm going to attempt it today. So I have two ideas. One is I am going to nix the paper veins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take heat transfer vinyl. I'm going to roll the cellophane knots. Like I said, I can get that beautifully smooth. And then I'm going to put another layer of heat transfer vinyl on top of that. So we have heat transfer vinyl, cellophane, heat transfer vinyl. I'm going to seal all that and make sure that is smooth and bubbleless. And then I'm just going to cut the veins out of gold heat transfer foil, and I'm going to stick those on the outside. The cellophane is transparent enough. I think on the other side it'll still be visible, but if not, I could always do foil on the other side and just line it up. For the wire, I am going to take heat transfer vinyl, and I'm going to stretch it across the wire. This is attempt one. I'm going to stretch it across the wire so that if you have the wire, the vinyl goes like this. And then I'm going to take that before I seal it, and I'm going to slide the wing between those two pieces like this. So the wire would be up here and like this. However, I'm going to first make sure that wire is wrapped all the way around before I slide the wing up like that. And then I'm going to use the heat gun to try to solidify that in place and make sure that all molds together. My thought is, because I am wrapping it around that wire, I can get it perfectly smooth and then just lift up the edges of the two pieces of vinyl, and the cellophane will not go all the way up to the wire. So my thought is that that might work. That was my husband's idea, so I need to give him credit for that. I still don't like the look of the wire, so I might still wrap the wire in like a white warbler just so it looks a little better, because that tape wire combo I just don't like the look of. So there's that. Another idea I have is, if that wrapped vinyl over the wire doesn't work, then I am going to wrap the wire in white warbler. The reason for this is like glues and stuff don't like to stick to metal, so the warbler is just giving it something else to stick to. So essentially I'm going to wrap the wire in white warbler instead of tape, and then I'm going to sure-bonder it to the top of the cellophane. I'm just going to make like a little extra cellophane and just sure-bonder it to the top, and hopefully I'm okay with the look of that, but if not, I might wrap it in like additional warp or something. I don't know. So that is my plan for cellophane. And I don't know if you're aware of Surebonder, but this is my Surebonder gun. It is a brand that I have seen at convention after convention, and at Dragon Con I treated myself to this gun. And it actually wasn't very expensive. I think that this was $15. They have one that's wireless and has an automatic shut off and everything that I wanted, but they were sold out. And then because I bought it at Dragon Con, you could, like, it was like a mix and match, buy 3 for $40 or something like that. So I got the gun, and I got 2 massive packs of a variety pack of their glues. On top of that, it was like a really good deal. I saved some money doing it that way. But so Surebonder is a type of hot glue that uses resin instead of the standard hot glues, and it is strong. Oh my gosh, it is strong. I have not found any other glue, like a hot glue, that once it's set, it's really hard to rip off. If it drips on my table, it takes so much effort to scrape it off. So I've been using this instead of standard hot glue. It's supposed to be non-toxic, and I did actually read through the I don't know what you call it, whatever paper it was that listed it with whatever government thing that regulates this stuff, about it being non-toxic. I do have a couple concerns about whether or not it's non-toxic. So according to the scientific study, I guess it's scientific, according to the study, where it was I read, the glue in its solid state is non-toxic. However, from my art school days, I know for a fact that resin and rosin, so tree saps, are carcinogenic. Not all of them, but the stuff that you make like glues and paints out of, those are carcinogenic, and that's what I'm assuming this is. That's made out of the same stuff that we learned about in school. But the study did say it's non-toxic in its solid form. It, however, did not have any information about it in its melted form, and it specifically called out that they didn't look into that. So it has a very strong smell to it that is kind of unpleasant, and that kind of hurts my nose and lungs. So I am uncertain of whether or not this is completely non-toxic when melted, but supposedly they do sell it as non-toxic. I was talking to the people at the booth. I was grilling them on how toxic it is, because I don't know if I've disclosed this before, but I've had some bad reactions to glues, and that's part of the reason I don't like to work with foam, because the most popular glue used for foam is actually extraordinarily toxic, and I had a really bad reaction to it, so I try to stick in the non-toxic route. So I chose to believe them, and this is what I use now. I highly recommend it. I've seen it at Walmart now. I saw it at Michael's. It's probably at Joann's, but it's not very expensive. The glue sticks are nice and long, which is awesome, and the gun itself is actually really easy to use. And I have wrist problems and hand problems on my right hand, and it's very easy for that hand to use. It doesn't take much effort to like pull the trigger, so that's really nice. So those are my 2 ideas for getting this cellophane to work, and I am pretty certain if those don't work, I have to nix the cellophane idea. I'm out of ideas. I don't know. I either have to nix it or just be satisfied with the way it is. And the wings I've made, they'll work for my photo shoot that's coming up with the Mystic Guardians, but they will not, I don't know, they won't work with competing. So I don't know what I'm going to do if that idea doesn't, if I can't figure this out. I do have one final idea. I'm going to run a little test this weekend to see if it'll work. So I have a bunch of 2mm high density EVA foam that can be cut on the Cricut. So my idea is to cut the veins out of EVA foam. I accidentally purchased a couple rolls of real vinyl, not like iron-on vinyl, but like thicker, non-sticky actual vinyl in an iridescent color. I know I meant to buy 1 roll because I was testing to see whether or not that would work for the spirals of the skirt. It doesn't, but I actually bought 3 rolls. So I had those sitting in the closet, and I was like, maybe. So my plan is to take 2, cut the veins out of the EVA foam twice, and then sandwich that vinyl in between the EVA foam, and then glue the foam together. And then I would take the wire and run it on the top, and then cover that with foam clay so that you can't see the wire, and then paint the veins white or gold, whatever I decide to do. So that is my final plan. My downside with that idea is that the foam itself might just make the wings look thick and heavy, which might be okay for the competition. I wouldn't necessarily imagine fairy wings being that thick, but you know what? I'm out of ideas, so it might be okay. So I'm going to do a test on one wing, probably tonight or tomorrow, and see how that goes. I'm kind of excited for it because I'm so sick of cellophane, but I think I'm going to make both. Like if I like the way the foam works, I think I'm going to make both versions and then decide which one to use for the competition. The foam ones are going to be probably a little easier to travel with. I think they'll be a bit more flexible than the cellophane. Because the cellophane, if it wrinkles a little bit, it wrinkles and that never goes back. But the foam with the paints and stuff I use, I have tested some bend on it and I haven't had an issue with it wrinkling, so that's awesome. Alright, so those are the wings. I honestly thought this update was going to be pretty quick because I feel like I didn't do much, but I just spent like 10 minutes ranting on wings. So yeah, so you could tell my level of frustration with this project this week. So while I was waiting for materials to arrive, I also started on the shoes. And have you guys ever had an idea that you for some reason were just focused on executing, then when a better idea presents itself so obviously to you that like you don't see it until it's almost too late? Well, that happened to me. So there's a lot of filigree and stuff on the boots, and the top has leaves that like bend over and they're kind of a weird asymmetrical shape. So I bought a pair of white boots from Amazon. I was actually really surprised with the quality of them. They feel really nice. And then I cut the top of the boots into the shape that I wanted it, and then Sure-bonded the lining and the outside of the boot back together so it didn't fall apart. And I took Warbler and wrapped it around the outside of the boot with the intention of painting the Warbler white. And then originally I was going to use foam clay to actually, I'm going to plug a video up here. Okay, so I have the start of the shoe. This is just going to be the base. It'll be painted white to match the shoe, and then everything's going to be built on top of it. This is what's going to give the boot additional structure because I trimmed out a lot of the material. So to get that weird shape, that's how I had to do it, and I thought Warbler would be the easiest way to get that structure back. And then I'm probably going to trim the white down some more because it's just not quite matching up. So then there's all this filigree on it, and I thought I would make it out of foam clay. So these are just some silicone molds that I had already, and they're just filigree. And I have pushed foam clay in here, which if you're not familiar with foam clay, it's essentially EVA foam, but it's really, really soft like clay. And it can be molded with silicone molds or sculpted or whatever you let it dry. It's pretty fantastic. It does have its drawbacks. It can be a bit brittle. When it's dry. That's the word I'm trying to say. But I was thinking that rather than following exactly how the design was, I would replace the filigree in the artwork with this filigree I had and like save myself some effort. But then I went back and revisited the artwork. And now I am going to actually follow it, which is probably for the best because accuracy is important when competing. But I broke down the filigree on the boot, and now I sort of understand the way it's constructed a bit more and how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to make this out of Warbler. I'm going to create this front little swirl piece, and I'm going to make Warbler leaves that go all the way around here. This piece belongs here. That's going to be a separate Warbler item. And this is the part that goes down on the the toe box area. So I'm going to construct this out of Warbler, and then I'm going to take foam clay, which does stick really well to Warbler. I didn't have a problem with it falling off of my cane I made. So I'm going to attempt to use foam clay as just like some detail. So just adding some lines and 3D elements to this structure in hopes that it makes it look better.
Finishing it will be interesting because Warbler and foam clay, I think, require two separate techniques. I don't know. I've only really used foam clay once, but we'll see.
So I had changed my plan, and I spent the rest of yesterday cutting out craft foam core pieces and Warbler and sandwiching them together. And at 10 o'clock last night, whenever I was about to put it all together and I was realizing how horribly ugly that was going to be, it occurred to me that the way these boots were made, they the I don't know what you call it. Is it the shank? Is that right? I don't know. The part of the boot that goes up to the knee, they made that like twice as long, so it was huge, and then they folded it down inside of itself and that became the lining. So when I cut it, I had opened up the inside of the boot, but there was still a lining inside. So well, I realized that I could slide that in between the lining and the outside fabric and then Surebonder the top together and you won't see the warbler. And it'll look a million times better because now you have the actual fabric of the boot going all the way to the top. However, I had Surebondered the lining and the outside fabric together. So I actually sat down on the floor and took a pair of scissors and cut it even shorter than I wanted it to be to open that pocket back up. And then I fought with sliding that warble in. I had to cut the warble down and reshape it in. And now I have a way better looking boot that is structurally sound. And I like it way better than my original idea. But I wasted an entire evening's worth of work because I, like, that idea should have occurred to me the moment I cut the boot, but it didn't. And honestly, it's probably because I'm a bit burned out this week on working on this. So that's my new plan. And now I'm going back to the idea of using the EVA foam filigree because I don't like the way the warble looks. And then I think I'm going to take white warble and seal up the edge of the cut area of the boot. And that way I can make all the leaves that go around the top of the boot out of white warble. And it'll stick to itself, so I don't have to use any glue to put that together. The problem is going to be through painting. I have no idea how I'm going to paint the top of this without getting the boot gold, without accidentally making the boot gold. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to like put the warble on and then take it off to paint and then put it back. So I don't know how that's going to go. So I shoved that warble into the boot, looked at it, went, ugh, I wish I would have noticed this hours ago, and then I went to bed because I was done. I was so over it last night. But yeah, so on top of all my frustration, I actually spent some time reorganizing my studio a little bit, which, I mean, it needs some help. Typically when I get towards the end of a cosplay, all my work areas just blow up with messiness because I am so focused on finishing. Stuff gets put everywhere. I pull stuff out and I don't put it back. It's absolutely insane right now. So I need to take care of that, and I need to take care of my my sewing area. Same thing, just goes everywhere. So that's where we're at right now. And I almost forgot, I also was putting together the brooch. I was very excited to get that finished this week. Like, that's how I started my week. Very excited for this brooch. So I got the resin part put on and I was putting the feathers on.
So I was finally in the process of putting together the brooch, which I have been wanting to finish forever now. And I was lining up these last feathers, which, to be fair, they're extra. I could leave them off, and maybe I will, because I thought there were 6 on the brooch, but the artwork only shows 4. But I was lining it up, getting ready to glue it on, and I realized I accidentally cut 2 of the same feather when they needed to be mirrors of each other. So that's exciting. If I do only do the 2, I have this little bit of gold here that I didn't care about before because I thought it was going to be covered up. But now I don't know that it will. Oh boy. I really liked the 6 feathers because I could bring it up make it a bit more bold, a bit more fold out, a bit more filled out. And then the roses go like here and here. And then there's some other things that happen up there, and then there's roses on the end. I need to think this through. I don't know. Does it look okay with just the two? That for sure has to go there. There's just more empty space that I would have to fill because my size is a bit weird. Okay. Do I like it with just the 4 feathers?
So I had to cut out a new feather, and on top of it I need to cut the feathers out for the collar. So I was attempting to do that this week, but my laser cutter is out in the garage, and I opened the garage door halfway so that there's proper ventilation. However, it has been extremely windy this week, like blowing over trash cans windy. And so I was trying to cut out these feathers, and I kept running into a problem where like they'd be half cut, or the lines, like I engraved the inside first and then I cut it out completely, like the shape of the feather. Those would be off, and I think I discovered that it's because the wind was blowing the foam around a bit. So I had to stop working on those. I have a handful of feathers curing right now. And one of them is the brooch feather, but I can't really move forward on cutting out the feathers for the collar yet because, again, yesterday it was windy. So I have to wait until the weather is a little less wild outside. And then, this is what I'm on a hold. Like, everything was put on hold this week. Like, I had to wait for materials for the wings. I had to wait for the weather to clear up. For the shoes, I have to wait for stuff to dry. Like, there were so many hiccups this week. Oh, and I had another hiccup. I was making the overskirt, and I apparently didn't order enough fabric. So I got one panel cut out, and I can't cut out the other panel because I need to order more fabric. So now we're waiting for that. Oh, and on top of it, my Joann's order from the very beginning of December is still delayed. It is 1 yard of stretch fabric to make the other glove, and it is still delayed. I got an email, I think a week after I ordered, saying, oh, we're sorry, it's delayed. Please give us more time. And then last week, I think it was, I emailed their customer service and asked for an update because I had not had any updates. And then I got an email last night that said, your order's delayed. And I don't know. I get early December Black Friday orders. I don't know. Is it more Christmas orders? And I don't know where else to get this fabric. So I would go in store to buy it, but my store is sold out. So I could try actually there's another Joann's. We're going to head up that direction today to go to the store. So I can try that Joann's to see if they have it, but I guess I can check the app before we go. But like, it is just absolutely insane that I cannot seem to get this order. So we're still waiting on that. So I still don't have both gloves yet. I did order some wefts for my wig, so those should be here soon if they haven't already been delivered. I don't honestly remember when I got the mail last. So we should start making more progress over the weekend. However, next week, given that the holidays are so close, I don't know how much I'm going to get done. Holiday Backstory is next week, so I will be there as my Peasant Belle, and I'm also going to go as Arwen. I'm thinking I'm going to go as Belle, do my photo shoot, and switch to Arwen because I really wanted to wear Arwen on like the busiest day, which I think is going to be Thursday, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to go on Friday. So that's the plan. I don't know if I'm going to post an update next week, just given that, you know, all of the holiday celebrations and with the convention and everything coming up. I'm not sure I'm going to have time to really do much, but I'm sure I'll post some shorts or something of my activities throughout the week. And then the week after that is Christmas. I don't know if I will have anything done that week, but hopefully, because I'm behind schedule. I wanted everything done by the end of December so that January all I had to work on is the wig and the wig accessories, but we're not there. January is going to be a whirlwind of effort to get this done. I give the advice all the time that you should have your costume completed or very, very close to being completed before you enter it into a competition. And I apparently can't follow my own advice. I was so confident in November that everything was going well. I'm like, I'm moving so fast. It'll be fine. I'll totally be able to have this done by February. And I'm uncertain that that's going to happen now. So we will see. So yeah, so that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, which just felt like a really long rant, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you feel like it, and I will see you in my next video. Oh, and before I forget, my Jekyll and Hyde video is done and it will be going up Monday. Yay! So that will be up there soon. So yeah, that's all I have for you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!